evening. I'm David Early with Placeworks. I'm glad to have you here this evening. Though a number of you are just joining right now, I want to acknowledge that we had some technical difficulties. It's kind of a dog-ate-our-homework kind of situation. From what we can tell, Eventbrite did something to the link that was invisibly embedded in the link, because the link that we made work looks exactly like the link that Eventbrite sent out, but somehow the link that Eventbrite sent out doesn't work. So we apologize for that. We do have lots of people joining now. I believe most of you got a new email with a new link, or figured out that you could somehow cut and paste the link and dump it back in your browser. And I think for some of you it did work. But at any rate, I apologize that this happened. I think we're back on track now. I'll be at 15 minutes late, but at least we've gotten started. So I think we can start now. I see a few people still arriving, but it looks like we're in pretty good shape. Jackie, do you want to say a few words of welcome before we get going?
Sure. I just want to thank everyone for coming. We have been working on redistricting since the beginning of last year. And have gone through an extensive process to figure out how to draw the best and most fair maps for Sunnyvale. And we're at a point now where we have draft maps that we would love for the community to respond to. So we're here with our consultants from Placeworks that have helped us with community engagement. David Early is going to be taking the lead with the presentation. But also joining us is Chalice Tilton from NDC, who is our demographic consultant. So thank you, Placeworks and NDC, for your support, and we'll get started.
Great, thank you, Jackie. So I have shared my screen, and you should be able to see a nice green title slide that shows the project we're doing, and I'm going to go through a little presentation. The presentation will focus on 3 items: the history and purpose of this project, the redistricting criteria, and the draft maps that have been prepared. I know many of you who are in this group tonight, and it's a relatively small group. I think we have about 14 or 15 participants right now. Most of you are very familiar with this process. I know you from other meetings. So we are going to go through that background information quickly, and then we'll take questions and answers. And get your feedback on the maps. You can submit feedback at other times, and we'll have some feedback sessions this evening, and then we'll wrap up. And we should still, I think, be done by 8, or even with the slowdown, maybe a few minutes after 8. So first, a little project history and purpose. I think most of you are very familiar with this. As you know, Sunnyvale's voters amended the city's charter in March of 2020 to change from at-large to district-based voting. There are 6 council districts, as well as the mayor's seat that's citywide. The city has now, at that time, conducted very extensive outreach, educating people about the California Voting Rights Act, doing community mapping exercises, choosing a preferred district map, and then doing voter education about the ballot measure itself. And that process, particularly those parts leading up to the proposed district map, were overseen by a 9-member Citizens Advisory Committee. So there are, as I said, 6 council districts with the mayor elected by a popular vote. You can see the map here of the districts that exist today, which I think you're all probably very familiar with District 1 down in the south side of the city, and then the numbers moving up through the city to District 6 in the far north. So now we already, having just really done this process a few years ago, we're at a point where we have to do it again, because as you probably are aware, state law requires the city of Sunnyvale to redraw those 6 council districts using new 2020 census data. And that will have to happen every 10 years when new census data becomes available, which generally happens in the year ending with a 2, which is now. It is our charge to keep population counts relatively equal within each of the districts. And the good news here is that there hasn't been that much change in the overall population distribution. So there are relatively few changes that are needed to fulfill the letter of the law. It is that there are 2 goals for the process that have been set forward already. One is to preserve the structure of the current districts with minimal changes to meet the population equality requirement, and also, of course, to minimize disenfranchisement of any voters. And these are goals for the process, and we're trying to fulfill them as best we can. There is also a redistricting commission that was set up through the charter and that is appointed by the council. There are 7 commissioners as well as 5 alternates, and the redistricting commission is in charge of overseeing the redistricting process, holding public hearings, reviewing preliminary draft maps, and then finally making a formal recommendation to the city council. So the district did meet just last week. They had a combined 10-hour meeting that lasted into Friday evening, and they were able to arrive at actually at 4 maps, 2 of which are quite similar to each other that we're going to be showing you this evening. So here's a copy of the project schedule. I think many of you are also familiar with it. We are in a very compressed timeline because it took the Census Bureau of the US government a very long time to get the census results out to us. And at the same time, the state mandate for when the election process has to be set is very unforgiving and did not change despite the fact that the Census Bureau took so long. So we've had a long lead up to this for over a year with education and input beginning in January of last year. The Redistricting Commission was selected and onboarded starting in March. There's been some preliminary recommendations regarding map drawing that could happen before the census results were fully available. That started in August and went through the end of last year. And now we're really in a very intensive phase of looking at maps and doing intensive outreach, which will include a series of pop-ups and other workshops. And we're doing those, including this workshop, tonight and through February. We expect that the council will review these and possibly make an adoption as early as February 22nd, or alternatively on March 15th. And the district map has to be sent to the registrar of voters no later than March 31st so that the district elections can occur this year. So we have a lot of outreach already scheduled. From February 3rd to 8th, there will be an open city hall survey on the draft maps. From between February 12th and 20th, there will be 5 different pop-up meetings around town, as well as a second open city hall survey to seek additional input on preferred maps. And you'll find these surveys, both Open Town Survey number 1 and number 2, at the web address that you see listed here, sunnyvale.ca.gov/redistricting. So I want to switch gears now in the presentation and talk a little bit about redistricting criteria. The primary criterion that we've already talked about is population size. All of the districts need to have roughly the same population, and the law states that they have to be within 10% of the average when the total population is divided by 6. Federal criteria also include not only population equality, but also fulfillment of the Federal Voting Rights Act and no racial gerrymandering. That is, you cannot draw districts particularly to support voting by any particular racial group. State criteria, on the other hand, are a little different. They require geographic continuity. They require consideration of neighborhoods and communities of interest. And we've already spent a lot of time working with the Sunnyvale community to identify those communities of interest, which include things like mobile home parks or school district boundaries. State criteria also suggests that there must be easily identifiable boundaries, compactness, and no favoritism or discrimination against any individual political party. And I think it's fair to say that the current districts meet all those criteria. And of course, we'll be trying to do that as we move forward as well. Population equality, what does that mean? This is population, this means total population equality from the 2020 census. It's not just about eligible voters, and those numbers could lead to different conclusions. So the demographic work being done by NDC for the purposes of making the split is based on total population. Some deviation is acceptable to serve governmental interests in local electoral districts, but as I mentioned already, the total deviation has to be less than 10% in either direction. So most districts are currently within that acceptable range with the new census numbers. It's possible that we could look at other changes based on the other criteria, but the only place that there have to be changes made is that District 3 needs to get more residents, that's the green district, while District 2 needs fewer residents. So an obvious solution would be just to take a little land from District 2 and put it in District 3. That's a way to solve the problem. There are other ways that have been studied as well that might involve multiple shifts, but the simple thing that needs to happen is more residents into the green District 3 and fewer in the salmon color District 2. As I mentioned, changes to other districts are acceptable, but they're not required. We have spent a lot of time, as I mentioned, defining communities of interest, which are defined in the law as a community or neighborhood with shared interests, views, or characteristics. And these include school attendance areas, mobile home parks, business areas, identified neighborhoods, race, income, education, languages spoken. We've really worked with you all to identify those communities of interest and to make sure that we understand them as we do this mapping. So the new map of communities of interest that came out through our previous workshops are shown here. They are primarily based on the mobile home parks and neighborhood associations, and you see them on this map. The map is available on a graphic as well, and there's a whole list of them on the back side of the map, but you can see them all numbered and lettered here, and I know many of you recognize them as both the neighborhoods and the mobile home parks within the city. There are additional criteria that have been adopted by the Redistricting Commission here in Sunnyvale. So these are particular to Sunnyvale and the Redistricting Commission. And those three are: first, to keep the contiguous mobile home parks within one district; second, to keep registered neighborhood associations intact; and thirdly, to minimize disenfranchisement. So those are additional criteria that the Redistricting Commission is wanting to uphold. That gives you some background, and I'm now going to dive into showing you some of the map issues. And those of you who are familiar with this, you know that there are actually two sets of issues that have come up. One is the maps overall, and the second is a little tiny area that we've come to call Fair Oaks Notch. And I'm going to start by talking about that area. So here is an existing map of what we call the Fair Oaks Notch. That's the name we've just made up over the last little while. This is an area that includes the mobile home park that is just south of the Bayshore Freeway. District 6 is almost entirely north of the Bayshore Freeway, but does extend onto the south shore side of the Bayshore Freeway in order to pick up the mobile home park that's on that side of the freeway, because most of the mobile home parks are in District 6, and this allows that mobile home park to be included as well. And the line that you see here on this map, the blue dotted line, is the current boundary between Districts 5 and 6. What's happened is that the census has drawn new boundaries around this area, and that has led to the fact that the mobile home park itself could be split up into various districts if we follow census block boundaries. And the demographics come to us through the census blocks. And so we began the process with NDC, assuming that we would look at census blocks, but then we realized that there was a problem here with this Fair Oaks Notch area. So through the work of the City Council and the Districting Commission in the last week, we've come up with three alternatives to address that issue. The first is to consider just having no notch at all. And you still see the existing boundary here, but in this case, District 6 in yellow and District 5 in orange would simply run along the freeway with no notch whatsoever. This, of course, does follow census block lines. It's very simple to do, but it would put this mobile home park into District 5 instead of District 6. The second concept has been to follow the new census boundary lines, and you see those here. In this case, again, the existing district boundary is shown with the dashed line, but now the boundary between the yellow and the orange is following the new census blocks. And what happens here is that actually a part of the mobile home park still ends up in District 6. I'm sorry, in District 5. You get most of it into District 6, but then there is also the condominium development further south, which was already in District 6, and most of it still remains in District 6, although another part of it goes into District 5 also. So it's a little bit strange here, but this does follow the census block boundary and is perhaps the most obvious thing to do following the new census blocks. It is, however, possible for us to do a manual count of units in this area to estimate population and to actually do a split not along the census block boundaries. So this would be another option, which is what we're calling the surgical notch, in which we would actually change the boundaries so that we can add back in the mobile home park that you see in this red area. You can see that it's now yellow on this map, so part of District 6. And we would actually take out the condominiums that are a part of the Snail neighborhood that is actually part of District 5. So this would allow two, call them surgical interventions, that involves a manual count of the units here, and that would allow us to get the entire mobile home park into District 6, while also allowing us to put the condos into District 5. So later in the meeting, once we finish the rest of the presentation, we're going to be discussing these three options for the Fair Oaks Notch and asking for your opinions about them. So hopefully you'll be able to think about that and give us your thoughts on which of these three options make the most sense. The other thing we're going to be talking about tonight, of course, are the draft maps overall. And the Redistricting Commission, with input also from the City Council, has now moved forward 4 maps. And those are, we're going to show those in just a minute. This slide, I just wanted to show you the list of all of them. The numbering's a little confusing. There were maybe close to 20 maps, I think, going into this process that were numbered 101, 102, and so forth, all the way up into the 115, 16, 17, 120s. As it turned out, the maps that have been moved forward are numbers 101, 102, and 104. So they're all relatively low numbers, even though there were quite a few of them. All of those maps have been modified a couple times already. So we're going to be showing you version 2 of each of those maps. And map 102 has actually been modified twice. So it has a version 2 as well as a version 3. It's also the case that map 104 is a little bit more like map 101 than is map 102. And for that reason, we're going to show you them in that order. So we're going to be showing you map 101 version 2 first, then map 104 version 2, and then the more closely related maps 102 version 2 and map 102 version 3. We're going to do that in just a minute, but I also wanted to mention that those Fair Oaks Knox options, all 3 of them, could be applied to any of these 4 maps. So they're really 2 independent questions. The amount of population shift between districts 5 and 6 that would occur from any of those Fair Oaks Notch options could be accommodated within any of these maps. So it really is a mix and match question. We're going to ask tonight for your input about the 4 maps, which of those you like best. We're going to ask you for your input about the Fair Oaks Notch options and which of them you like best, and whatever combination is most desirable to you, ultimately to the Redistricting Commission, and ultimately to the City Council. Those are the options for each of those that can be combined together to create the preferred alternative. So from here, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie, Jackie Guzman from the City of Sunnyvale, and she's going to go over the maps individually to explain the differences between the 4 options that we're looking at this point. So Jackie, here's map 101 version 2 first.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through each of the maps. In map 101, you'll see that the majority of the district boundary lines really align with our current district boundaries. So there are absolutely no changes to the boundary lines in District 6, District 5, and District 4. What is
except of course for the notch, right?
Except for the notch is a separate issue. Right. I'm not going to talk about.
Right, but Jackie, if I could interrupt, I should have said that on all of these maps, people will see the option number 2, the notch that follows existing census boundaries. That is not part of these alternatives that Jackie's going to show you. You can mix and match and have no notch, or have the revised surgical notch, or the notch shown here, regardless of which of the 4 versions, the 4 options you choose. So I'm sorry, Jackie, go ahead and continue. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Thank you, David. So the differences here really are in District 1, District 3, and District 2. So the existing boundary line in District 2 goes down into what is District 1 here, right there. So this moves or keeps a downward little curve of District 2. And then it really changes, it expands District 3 from the bottom up and moves District 1 into both District 2 and District 3 area. So this is really the change here. And you'll see this change is pretty consistent in all of the maps. The feedback that we got is this change aligns more closely with the elementary school district boundaries. And that is one of the reasons why map proposers chose this change. We also know that we've done some outreach in the Las Palmas area, which is up above the border between District 2 and District 1, and they expressed that they feel more closely aligned with District 1 for the same reason that they share an elementary school district with the residents of District 1. And we can go to the next map. So the next map has the same changes in District 1, 2, and 3. The only difference is the circle area to the right, that little extra box space right there. So that's really the only difference between 101 version 2 and 104 version 2. We can go to the next map.
Here it is.
Okay, so 101 version 2 slightly changes that little area in District 2 that was going down. That now becomes District 1, but it has the same other borders that align with the elementary school district. And then to the right, they move, oh, it's okay. They just move the extra area, population area into District 4. And again, the reason that these changes need to happen is because District 2 currently has too much population and needs to shrink. And then District 3 needed to expand. This is just a different way to accomplish that population equality. In the next map.
It's there.
So this map looks a little bit different because this is a map that was proposed by the Sunnyvale Mobile Home Park Alliance. And their original map 102 had a different little boot in that District 2, District 4 border. The commission specifically asked them to smooth out that boot. And so they have done that. And this is that version of the smoothed out boot that is requested by the Redistricting Commission. So thank you, Sunnyvale Mobile Home Park Alliance, for making that change.
All right, so that's a summary of the 4 focus maps that we have. So we're going to be opening it up very soon to your discussion tonight. I wanted to let you know that in addition to the discussion tonight, you see listed here 4 other ways or 3 other ways that you can submit comments. There is a tool online, Dave's Redistricting Mapping Tool. You can get that online at the City of Sunnyvale website. You can also hand draw maps. There is a paper map kit available. You can hand map write up or type into a spreadsheet that's available as well. And all of these are available for download or printing on the city website at sunnyvale.ca.gov redistricting. You can then submit any suggestions or revisions you have in any of those ways by January 31st. So tonight we do want to have a really robust discussion, but if you either don't feel ready to give comment tonight, or you don't have enough, we don't have time for all your comments, or if your opinions change, there are many ways that you can submit comments, and you can certainly just send an email as well. But in addition to sending email, you can use the paper map kit, the spreadsheet, or the redistricting mapping tool, all of which are available online and all of which will be available until January 31st.
And David, I just want to clarify. So the direction from the commission is really to focus on the focus maps 101, 102, and 104. So if anybody does want to make revisions, then the expectation is that you take the base or these focus maps that are already in Dave's redistricting app and you just make your tweaks to it. but the commission doesn't want to see dramatic, different proposals.
Now is not the time to propose a whole new approach to the problem. That's right. Thank you for clarifying that. So with that, we're going to stop for a few moments and just talk about questions that you may have, general comments, general questions, and then we're going to go into some targeted discussion, first about the Fair Oaks Notch, and then about the 4 alternative focus maps. So I'm going to stop the sharing of the screen for a few minutes, just so I have a little better sense of who's where. If you do want to make a comment, you can raise your electronic hand and we will call on you if you have a question. And we'd love to have a robust discussion here. The way this is set up, we have to, as it's called, promote you to be a speaker. If you raise your hand, we'll do that. You may speak, and then we'll, I guess the word is demote you back to an audience member, but we can promote you again anytime as the discussion continues. So if you do have something you'd like to say, either a question or a comment at this point, please do. And once we finish the more general comments and questions, we'll go into looking at first the Fair Oaks Notch and then at the 4 focus maps. Who has a question or comment more broadly?
I see Valerie Suarez has her hand raised.
Great. So Valerie, you've been promoted. Go ahead and ask your question or make your comment, please.
So David, could you please show the map, your slides again? Because there is an error in one of the maps on the boundaries. So if you could go back, there were 3 maps that you showed, one with the census data and another one. So keep before, yeah, one more. Yes, there. Okay. So that is the dotted line is the existing boundaries. The next one over, could you show the next one over? Okay. So that line is, the division is not correct over here because presently the 2020 census block cuts, and I wish I could use my mouse just to show you, but if you look at, if you come down from the Bay Shore, yes, to your left, down, oh, too much, go back to the right, there, stop. So the current census block is to the right of these mobile homes. So the dotted line goes from the 7 mobile homes to your left, there. The current census block goes here, stop here, there, these, and then go straight down on Carolina. Down, 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 perfect, keep going until Ferndale, stop, and then turn right. There you go. So that is this, that's the whole issue of the census block of the 2020, because it cuts the Snail neighborhood. By the way, I am the chair of the Snail neighborhood. It's a nonprofit 501c4 established in 1995. So it cuts, the census block is cutting these 7 or 8 mobile homes at the top. So it takes these from the mobile home park, shoves them into Snail, and then shifts Snail, Carolina. So there's 15 homes on Carolina and 2 on East Ferndale. And that's the current census block. So your map is not, your colors are not correct.
So Jackie, perhaps.
I'd be happy to respond, David.
Yeah,
so there's, the map is correct. The difference is there's 2 ways to draw the notch using the existing census blocks. The Redistricting Commission considered the larger, or I'll say wider notch, and
which
the
is
narrow.
The one that Valerie just spoke.
Yes, that's the wider notch. The Redistricting Commission decided that they didn't want to consider that wider notch, but they would consider this narrower mark.
I'm sorry, could you explain, could you translate what narrow and in
So yeah, why don't I try that then?
Sure.
So, and Jackie, I do want to make sure I'm saying one thing correctly, which is that there are actually multiple block boundaries here. So
yes,
there is
correct.
A block boundary that runs here where Valerie indicated.
Right.
So that is a block boundary. There is also a block boundary here between the orange and the yellow. So if one is to follow the blocks, there are actually 2 ways to do it. And the Districting Commission considered both of those ways. They considered, Valerie, the way that you've suggested, which is to follow the line that goes straight down here. But
No,
they
I don't
decided
want that.
one.
That's the one I don't want.
Exactly. Well, they don't either. So everyone agreed not to follow the one that you don't want, and they eliminated that from discussion. So even though it's true, it is possible to do that, as you said, they have already rejected that possibility. However, there are other census block boundaries that do follow the line between the orange and the yellow. That is a boundary that also could be followed while following the census blocks, and that the Districting Commission did decide to keep in play. I don't know if you're going to want to express an opinion about it.
Yes, because you know what? You're eliminating the mobile homes there. Yeah, these these exactly. No, come
Yes.
back.
Right.
Yes.
So that is absolutely a problem with this particular option. And that's why we also have this one in play, which keeps all the mobile homes in District 6 and puts all of the condos into District 5. So both of these are in play. The one you mentioned could have been in play because there is a block boundary here, but the commission has already rejected it.
No, I understand that, David, but come back to the one with the red line. Thank you. So you keep using the could and potentially, and the whole point of our coming back together with the mobile home park and the Snail neighborhood this past weekend, we want to know how feasible it is to cut through census blocks that have been identified in the 2020.
Right, great question. And I did try and address that, and maybe it didn't jump out at you. I kind of glossed over it, but city staff and NDC have worked really diligently since you all brought these issues up, and have ascertained that although you couldn't do this all over the city because it's too much work, it is possible to do a manual adjustment, not following the block boundaries in this one area. And both NDC and the city are willing and able to do it. So if the public comment and ultimately the Redistricting Commission and the City Council direct it, then this map with these yellow and orange colors is possible. So it's really a question at this point of gathering input. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm thinking you might like this third option better than the first.
Oh, totally. That's the one that we've been advocating.
Right.
Yes.
So,
totally. We've worked
tonight,
on this.
yeah. So tonight we're here to get that input from you, and you'll have more chances to give it later tonight. Once we've collected that input from you and others, it may be that everyone in this meeting thinks that this option number 3 is best. However that works, it may be that some people like one of these other two options for some reason. I don't know yet. We're going to find that out tonight. Once we gather that input, we're going to convey it to the Redistricting Commission. We're going to convey it to the City Council, and they will ultimately make a choice. And I certainly can't promise anything, but certainly input that's significantly in favor of this third option is going to be very significant to the City Council when they go to make a final choice.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I want to address one more thing, and maybe Chalice, you can step in. I also wanted to clarify that the city did have a conversation with the registrar of voters. That was a big concern of ours. And it seems to be that the registrar of voters will not have a problem implementing this, and it should not result in any additional cost to the city.
Oh, that's a good sound. Thank you. Good news.
All right, so we're ironically, the next thing we're going to do is get comments about the Fair Oaks Notch, the maps we have up here right now. But let me ask again, are there any other general questions or comments before we go into taking comments about the 3 notch options? I never said Fair Oaks Notch option many times before this meeting, and I've learned it's very hard to say Fair Oaks Notch option. So if you need a tongue twister later tonight, you can play with Fair Oaks Notch option. Any other comments about that?
We have Donna Eskridge has her hand raised.
Okay, Donna, Ricky, can you promote her?
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I live in the District 5 area. I grew up here. I moved away. I moved back to Sunnyvale in like 2011. And I'm an artist. And I looked at the maps, and I think the one where there isn't a notch, it just makes it more clear. And it having 101 as sort of a natural divider makes more sense visually, and it's less confusing. As far as the area is concerned, and District 6 seems to be more of the industrial corporate. There's the waste management. There's a lot of big corporations over there, where District 5 is more residential and, like you said, motorhomes and stuff. So it just kind of makes more sense to not have the notch at all.
Thank you for that comment. We are gonna, I will make sure that we note that comment. We're gonna very soon get to a more formal discussion about the pros and cons of the notch options. But Donna will make a note of that. And in the meantime, I do want to ask, before we go to that discussion, is there anybody else who has a general comment or a general question, rather than anything specific about the pros and cons of the notch options or the pros and cons of any of the 4 maps? Any other general questions or things you need to know before we can proceed with comments?
Steve Scandelis has his hand raised.
Steve, go ahead.
Yes, hi. Some of this I may have to hold until we get into the notch and more focused things, but I want to remind us that minimal changes to the 2019 maps has been a very high top priority for our redistricting. And there are some significant challenges to meeting that goal with the maps that have been produced by the Redistricting Commission. So if you'd like, I can hold specific questions for the maps till later. And I also have some comments about the notch. Would you like me to?
If I can rely on you to distinguish questions from comments, I would welcome you, and I can put the maps up. I would welcome you to ask any questions so we can answer them for everyone. To the extent your questions are comments about what you think would have been better or is best among them, I do want to wait on those.
Okay, but then mine are more comments, David.
Okay, so we'll
maybe
wait on those then.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I really appreciate your flexibility in working with us here. So let's see if there's anybody else who has a question or needs additional information about the process overall before we go into the discussion.
I don't see any raised hands right now.
All right, great. So I will then share my screen again, and we're going to go on to the actual discussion. And we are going to first talk about the Fair Oaks notch options, and we'll have, and then we'll go to the focus map options. For both of these, we're going to first have an open discussion, and we do have Ricky and Carrie taking notes. And then we also have a Zoom poll question. So we'll actually ask you which of the notch options you prefer. Once we finish that, we're going to go on. We'll have a discussion about each of the 4 focus map options. For those, we'll ask you at the end of each of the 4 maps, we'll ask you a question where you get to rank it on a scale of like to dislike. And then at the end of discussing all 4 of them, we'll have a final Zoom poll to allow you to choose which of the 4 options you like best. I did hear Steve, for example, say, and Steve, I don't want to misquote you, but I think there was an implication that maybe some folks think that there might have been a 5th or a 6th option that could have been better. I want to echo what Jackie already said a minute ago, that although you're welcome to share those comments, at this point, the process is such that the Redistricting Commission has already asked us to focus on these 3 focus map options, or 3 numbers, 4 maps. And there's not, as we are, at least unless there were a major change from the Redistricting Commission, we would not be reopening the discussion to have additional maps. So we welcome your comments. The polling we're going to do is only about the 4 options. And if other options come up, it would have to be through the Redistricting Commission to bring those forward. So with that, let's go to the notch options. Here they all are on the screen all together, just so that we can see them all at once. Again, option 1, which is the one that Donna already spoke in favor of, is having no notch. Option 2 is the narrower census block option, which falls along the lines that you see here between the yellow and orange. Again, for the record, as Valerie said, there could have been another option to draw that yellow-orange boundary way out here. That's already been rejected by the Redistricting Commission, but they did want to consider this option that follows different block boundaries that are here. And then finally is one that involves what we're calling the surgical notch, that involves manual recalculation outside of block boundaries. We do have approval from the Registrar of Voters and we believe from all parties involved that we can do this if we like. And this one does keep the entire mobile home park in District 6 while placing all of the single family homes and condominiums into District 5. So we've got these 3 options. Valerie and Donna, we already heard from you on this, so I don't know that you need to speak again. I think your points are very clear, but I imagine there may be others in the group tonight who would like to speak in favor or against any one of these. And then at the end of the discussion, we will ask you a poll question so that you can express your preference for any of the 3. So who has additional comments beyond Donna and Valerie who already spoke?
Diane Gleason has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Diane.
All right, good evening. I want to talk about the notch, of course, and in rejection of the narrow notch, this narrow notch actually divides up 3 communities of interest into pieces. As we already talked about the mobile home park, and then below it is the one of the condo complexes that leaves out 2 buildings would be in District 5, the rest would be in District 6. And right below that, there's another condo complex, and there's 1 building that would be in District 6, and the rest would be in District 5. So that actually affects 3 communities. So I think that one should be definitely rejected. Regarding the surgical notch versus no notch, I am entirely in favor of the surgical notch. Thank you for your work on this, Jackie. It sounds like this is totally feasible. The mobile home park community is really, really, really adamantly wants the mobile home park to be linked to all the other mobile home parks in District 6. Now, District 6 has much of a population as District 5. District 5 has a whole bunch of office buildings, just like District 6. But District 6 has pretty much the same population as District 5. That's why we're doing this, right? We're making the populations effectively equal. So there's no issue about types of population or whatever that we would want to remove the notch. I'm just taking the issue about visually, it would look nicer if this notch was removed because it's below 101. But the point is, the communities of interest should take.
Oh, Diane, I think we just lost you.
Oh, yeah, it's weird.
There you are again.
Okay, I want to, sorry.
I think we did hear your point.
Yeah.
You just broke off at the very last moment. So I think
Okay.
everybody heard your overall comment that there's
Yeah.
the only reason to do it would be aesthetic, and much more important than the aesthetics of the no notch are the communities of interest that are
Thank you,
captured
yes.
by putting the mobile home park in number 6.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that comment.
Mhm.
Carrie, who else has raised a hand?
Steve Gonzalez.
Steve, if you are ready, there you are. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, David. I'm seeing that the no notch solution seems like a favorable option to a very difficult problem. And I understand there's some emotional attachments here. By eliminating the notch and also moving Mary Manor Mobile Park into District 5, we would ensure that no mobile home park would be on an island by itself. It would make a nice clean notch. We wouldn't have to deal with these census blocks. And that's something that has been talked about. I understand that mobile home residents have felt strongly that they need to all be together, but we've already learned that there's other parks in the city that are too far away to be included. And I'd like to remind us that housing types are mixed within districts' housing stock. We have condos and townhouses and single family homes and apartment buildings and ADU, well, ADUs are not sellable. But we have all these different type things there. So I think it's reasonable that mobile home park is a type of housing mix. We just don't want to leave one type alone. So it has been suggested to try to bring Mary Manor, which is already an odd shape over there, bring Mary Manor Park, and I think the one here is called Fair Oaks Park. If those could be both brought together, maybe that would make a clean solution. So
Great. Okay, thank you, Steve. We're not going to count votes right now, so to speak, because there will be a polling question that I'll count, but I'll just note that we've heard from 4 people, 2 with opinions in favor of the no notch solution and 2 with in favor of the surgical notch. So let's just see if there are others who would like to speak in favor or against any of these particular options.
Valerie has her hand raised, and then after that would be Donna.
Okay, let me ask, we have heard from both Valerie and Donna already. I will go ahead and call on you in a moment. I do also want to watch our time. We did get started a little late because of the Eventbrite glitch. Let me ask first if there are others who want to speak other than Valerie and Donna. Could you raise your hands now?
Marco
Are there any
Vasquez.
others? What's that?
Marco Vasquez.
Okay, let's take Marco first, please. Go ahead, Marco.
Good evening, Dave. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I want to echo what others have spoken on behalf of the surgical notch. As a resident of Snell, we would like to keep Snell intact because, as you already know, it's a community of interest. We already know each other, and for matters of elections and everything, we already have our boundaries. So we really don't want to confuse people. We want to keep it as it is, please.
Okay, thank you very much for that comment.
Thank you, sir.
Carrie, anyone else other than Valerie, anyone other who has not spoken yet?
Elaine Manley.
Elaine, please.
Hi, thank you very much. I do have a question about how this would work. I think it's fantastic you've researched the surgical notch option and the ROV said this is doable. I'm curious, how long would it take to do this manual count, and would we make the deadline of March 31st?
Chalice has appeared, so I think we're going to let Chalice answer that, please.
Yes, we will be able to do that in time for the deadline. That will not be an issue.
That's huge. I mean, if you listen to what the communities of interest want, that's wonderful that you guys can provide that service. So thank you very much for doing that. Excellent. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, Carrie, who's not spoken yet?
There are no new hands at this time.
Okay. Yeah, we still do have, I think, a couple minutes. So Valerie and Donna, if you still do want to speak, I'd love to recognize you. And we'll take Valerie first since she went first last time. I do want to ask you to keep the comments short, and if possible, just either summarize what you said before, or if there is anything new to add, please do that. But let's try and keep it brief so we can go to the other 4 maps.
Sure, thank you very much. So the one thing that, although I've heard the recommendation for the no notch, I think that the community of interest is really paramount. And as the previous speaker has mentioned, the splitting 3 communities of interest is really not optimal. So we really thank you for looking into the surgical notch. We and Jackie and the other folks, we've offered to assist in order to make the deadline for the March and for the ROV's feedback. So by all means, please do count on us. We will be there to support everybody should you support our surgical notch. Thank you very much for all the work you guys have been doing.
Thank you, Valerie. Let's promote Donna as our last speaker here.
Okay, like I reiterated, I'm from this area. I think even before there was districts. My thought is that I'm not exactly sure how many people in that motorhome community go to the schools in the district, in District 5, the Columbia and all that. So that's a consideration as far as the proximity to the school. And the other consideration is that once there are council members that will represent the different districts, to have a voice for somebody that lives in a mobile home park from District 5 would probably be beneficial, because each district's mobile home park has its own unique geographic issues. So that's another reason why I think the no notch and that it should stay with District 5, this proximity to Columbia School, and the fact that once there are council members to represent each district, there could be, a council member that would be able to address issues within District 5 concerning that particular mobile home area.
Great. Donna, thank you for that comment and for articulating those reasons. So as a summary, I think we've heard only from people who are in favor either of the no notch option or the surgical notch option. I don't think there was anyone in favor of the narrow notch that follows the census blocks, but of course there could be some of you who haven't spoken. And because of that, we also want to do a poll. So Ricky, when you are ready, we'll put the poll up, and there are at this point 13 attendees in the meeting who are from the community. So when the poll is up, we'll look for, or now 14 again, we'll look for 14 of you to be able to choose. So choose one of these options. Some of you may have no opinion and you can give that. Some of you, many of you probably do like one of the things. So the panelist, the poll is up, and you can go ahead and cast your ideas. I'm noticing that I cannot see how many have voted. I don't know who can. Can somebody in our host group tell me when we've got our 14 people or close to it?
Yeah, so far we have 11, David.
11, okay, so there are 3 of you. If you have no opinion, you could check that box, and there are few enough of us that it would be great to be able to tally all 14 of your opinions. Some folks may be making popcorn though right now and not aware that it's time to cast a choice.
A few more seconds, I'm going to end the poll and then we can tally the end results. Okay.
Are we at 11 still?
Yeah.
A lot of popcorn being made right now.
Go ahead and end it, David.
Okay, great. Go ahead. So, and then you'll display the results?
Yep. They should be showing.
Okay. So yeah, so perhaps not surprisingly, the most people who expressed an interest did choose the surgical notch. That seemed to be the way the comments went also. We did have 2 people tonight who spoke in favor of no notch, and indeed we have 2 folks who chose that in this poll. We had 1 person who did choose the narrow notch, and we have 3 people who have no opinion, and then 3 of you who didn't even express that you had no opinion. You had double no opinion. So that's how it went with that polling. We will make those that set of results available to the Redistricting Commission and the Council as well. So with that done, I want to go on now and look at the 4 maps. We've put them in pairs just so that I think it's nice to be able to see a couple of them at once. I think obviously if we put all 4 on a single screen, it would have been very difficult to make them out very well. But so we've chosen to put 101 and 104 on the same slide here. And then we have another slide that compares 102, version 2 and 3. If you'd like me to toggle back and forth between them, I can do that as well. And I'd like to start with either general discussion or particularly comments about number 101. We do have, as I mentioned, Ricky, can you display a polling question and then turn it back off without voting? Does that work? I just want people to be able to see what those polling questions are going to look like. So go ahead and put up the next one. And is that possible? Can you then take it down? You're on mute.
Sorry, David, I have to launch the poll. unfortunately, for it to show.
Could you launch it, stop it, and then remake it while people are talking?
Sure.
Okay, so go ahead. Let's go ahead.
Make sure to no one vote on it.
So nobody's expected to cast a vote right now. We're just going to show you what they're going to look like. So for each of these, 101, 104, 102 version 2, and 102 version 3, we're going to ask you this question. Do you like it a lot? Do you slightly like it? Are you neutral? Do you slightly dislike it, or you do dislike it a lot? You'll be asked that question 4 different times about the 4 maps. And then at the very end, we'll ask you to choose your favorite map, or to say that you're neutral about them, that you have no opinion. So there'll be 5 different polling questions as we move forward. So Ricky, let's turn that back off. I'm sorry that you'll have to remake it, but now let's open the discussion. And who would like to either express an opinion overall or say anything in particular about map 101? I see Gail Rubino first. We'll take Gail, if you can promote her, Ricky. Gail, go ahead.
Who, David? I only see Steve with their hand raised.
Oh, Gail had her hand up and now it's lowered. Let's go ahead.
They might have lowered it.
Oh, there's Gail again. Gail was ahead of Steve, so let's try and promote Gail.
Go ahead.
And Gail, your microphone is off, but I think we're going to promote you soon.
She can speak. She's been promoted.
Okay, Gail, can you?
I'm finding it interesting that you're just showing maps without any population figures. I'm a little bit, people are just looking at different maps with different colors. I don't, why are you not showing population statistics here or something other than just the maps?
Great question. The pure population numbers are all within the ranges that are allowed by the law. I don't have the ethnic breakdowns, which have been a consideration in the past. I don't know, Jackie or Carrie, if we can make those available quickly tonight. I do know that they're roughly similar to each other. And so it's really, this is more about communities of interest at this point. And so we didn't think that it was significant to show those numbers, but I know I don't have them at my fingertips. I'm sure if nothing else, if you want to wait to express an opinion, we can make sure that those get up onto the website and you'll be able to look at those and then express an opinion before January 31st based on those numbers.
And Gail, I think that's an excellent question. And part of our dilemma is that the decision on these 3 maps was made very late on Friday night. And we have not had time to fully process the maps to get the exact demographic data that goes along with each of these maps. What we do know is they're all population balanced. And we will certainly, as soon as we get that data, put it up on the website for everybody to be able to see and analyze. I will also say in Sunnyvale, we don't have really big concentrations of ethnic groups. We're fairly diverse and dispersed throughout the city. And so the different maps don't have a significant impact on racial or ethnic voting patterns. But I'll let Chalice chime in. I saw that she got off of her video, so Chalice might be able to tell us more.
Yes, and thank you for that. And actually, I just got the last map in just seconds before the demographic sheet for the last map. So I still need to run 102V3 because that just came in late. We're still running that, but they're complete. They should be up. I'll transmit them to Jackie tonight, and so they can make them available on the website. If I have the ability to share my screen, I could share them, but you're exactly right. These maps are so similar. The demographics do not change between them very much at all. It's just very slight. They're all relatively, this demographics for each of the maps are all relatively the same.
Great. Okay, thank you. So I think what I just say in summary of what Jackie and Chalice both just said is that on the one hand, we really understand why you want to see those demographic numbers. To the extent they will impact your thoughts, there'll be a fair amount of time after tonight to look at them from the web and provide comment through any of the other means that I already mentioned. And at the same time, we believe that you will find when you look at the numbers that the differences from one map to the next are relatively small numerically, both in totals and also in terms of the racial and ethnic makeup. So for many of you, it may not be a deciding factor, but we certainly understand the desire to look at those, and they'll be available within the next couple of days. Gail, unless you have something more, I think we'll go to the next person, and that's Steve Skandalis. Steve, go ahead.
Thank you, David. This is an overall comment to each of the focus maps that are provided. Minimal changes to the 2019 maps is a top priority for redistricting. There were two maps, one called Minimal Change Map, the other Map 103, discussed at length on January 13th in a joint meeting with the City Council that closely achieved that goal. I'd like to thank the Redistricting Committee for their hard work. I've attended many of their meetings. Unfortunately, the focus maps they've offered do not meet this primary goal of minimum changes from 2019. The focus maps also appear to be attempting racial gerrymandering by trying to move Asian and Pacific Islander CVP from District 1 to District 3. We know that defining districts for ethnicity and race reasons is not allowed. What we've got is a situation where in 2019, we realized that the community, the Nimitz neighborhood, is the most aligned with community of interest west of Sunnyvale, Saratoga. Unfortunately, the numbers wouldn't allow us to keep south of Alberta Street. That area also should have been in District 1 in 2019. So unfortunately, what we've got here is that grabbing CVP from District 1 deprives them of their Asian and Pacific Islander CVP just to bring it over to 3. I think for that reason and the geographic reasons, the focus maps do not respect the geographic integrity of Sunnyvale Saratoga Road, and it does not respect the local neighborhoods and community of interest, which are west of Sunnyvale Saratoga Road. For that reason, I cannot support any of these maps.
Thank you, Steve, for those comments. And again, I very much appreciate that you wish very much that some of the other maps had been chosen. These are the 4 that the Redistricting Commission is studying at this time. And so you and others are welcome to make those comments. And that said, we're going to be taking opinions primarily about these 4 maps. But I think we will certainly note that, in your opinion, all 4 of them are lacking in regard to that issue about CVP between Districts 1 and 3. I think the next person to promote would be Elaine Manley.
Thank you. I do need to speak to the last speaker. I have been having a lot of conversations with people throughout Sunnyvale, and many of the people that I spoke with on this one block that went from D1 to D3, I can tell you beyond the shadow of a doubt, there was no gerrymandering. There was no conversation about racial change. There was nothing intentional on this. So please rest assured, this was truly just looking at how do you balance the population. And I reached out to try to find people that lived in that block, that square, that big square. And in speaking with those people, and granted, it is not a statistical sample that's legitimate, but at least it was a conversation with people that lived there who happened to be Asian. They felt like it was not a problem at all. So I just want to allay any fears that there was no gerrymandering on any of this. I've been involved in so many of the conversations. I can tell you for sure that was not the issue and not the intention at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Next up, we have Gail Rubino again. And I guess we don't have other speakers, and Gail previously just asked a question. So Gail, we'll go ahead and recognize you, presumably for either another question or additional comments. Others who want to raise a hand, please do so. Gail?
Yeah, I just want to say that if you show the numbers, and both Jackie and Sharice have both said that the numbers are balanced, and based on that, you'll see or not see that District 3 changes have or have not created some racial disparity. That's why seeing the numbers,
they're
that's
not
why
ready. They
seeing
need
the
to be double
numbers
checked.
and going over them is really important. Looking at pieces of paper that have colors on them with numbers is not, in my view, an adequate way to show the public what's been done on the redistricting. And I understand that the data was not available, but people need to see the numbers. Otherwise, they can have misinformation that they're not balanced, and that we need to show the public that the maps that we've got here all have balanced population and balanced in terms of race and income and all that other kind of gobbledygook. Thank you. That's it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I just want to say again for the record that we are on a very compressed schedule. This meeting needed to be held tonight to stay on schedule, and because it had long been publicized, I think all of us on the staff and consultant side agree that understanding that population distribution, both in total numbers and in race ethnicity, is very, very important. We're very sad that we couldn't get that for you tonight. We encourage those of you who are concerned about it, and you're concerned for very good reason, please do take a look at it when it's posted to the web in the next couple of days, and there will be additional time to talk about that both before January 31st when this comment period closes, and all through February when there are additional comment periods as we move this forward. So again, apologies, we're moving as quickly as we can. It is a very compressed process, and we actually have the US Census Bureau to thank for that. We're very sorry about it. I don't see any other hands right now. I'm wondering if anybody does want to say any specific comment about map 101 at this time. If not, I'll give it a few seconds to see if anybody raises a hand as I'm talking, but if not, then our next step would be to put up that first poll about map 101, assuming there aren't any other comments to give about it, and then we'll turn to map 104 and ask for comments there and do another poll. So any comments on map 101? The poll is up now. If you are wanting to say an opinion about it, you can go ahead and put your choice into the poll. You can also raise your hand still, and we'll take comments on map 101.
And David, you can see
Are we seeing people giving us opinions?
Yeah, we have 8 out of 12 so far.
Great, okay. Ricky, moving forward, that was a little sooner than I expected the poll to come up. So just on the next ones, just wait another.
I'll wait for your cue, David. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Give it a couple more seconds. We have another person that just answered it. 9 of 12.
All right, there are 3 of you who have not yet given an opinion. And while we're waiting, I just want to underscore that Chalice's data is partially complete, but my understanding is she only has 3 of the 4 done. I also feel like it would be a good idea for it all to be double checked. So some people have said through the chat, it would be nice to be able to see the partial data tonight. I'm going to make an executive decision here that unless Chalice, you tell us it's complete data, which I thought you said it's not, that it's only partial, I think it's better to wait.
Everything's done except for the new map, the 102B3.
Right. So I'm going to call that 3/4 done. I understand the entire 3/4 is done, but because it's 3/4, I would prefer to wait until it's 100% done. And I do understand that we have 3/4, but I think it's important just to wait till all the data is together. And so I'm making that executive decision. Ricky, how many votes or polling options responses do we have now on map 101?
10 of 12.
Okay, let's then close the poll and see what we've got. All right, so one of you out of 10 people who gave us an answer disliked the map, 3 were neutral, 5 do like it a lot. So I don't know, maybe everybody will like lots of them, but 5 out of 12 liked a lot, plus 1 who slightly likes it. That's more than half are in the like category on this one. So interesting results. Let's move on to map number 104, which is the one here on the right side of this map. And let's ask if there are additional comments about that. Anybody want to make a verbal comment about map 104? Jackie, maybe while we're waiting, you can just remind us on this one that some of the differences were that we do still have the hook here that's a little smaller, but the over here the boundary has been changed.
Yeah, and really that's the only change is that little
Yeah,
extra portion that goes into District 4.
All right, so between these two, both of them are the same in this zone between 1, 2, and 3, and the only difference between 101 and 104 is in the little nubbin, if you will, up here.
Yes.
Any comments on that map?
I don't see anyone with their hand raised, David.
Okay, well then let's put up the poll for map 104.
Okay, what's up?
And yeah, though everyone can go ahead and make a selection there. And Ricky, again, I cannot see the results. I don't know if I just don't know how to see them or if I have a different status, but I'll rely on you to tell me when we've got 12 or
9
so.
of 12.
9 of 12. 3 people have been consistently out making popcorn.
10 of 12. Okay, that was quick. I think that might be the total of voters. It's consistent with the last poll.
Okay, let's go ahead and close the poll and put up the results. Okay, so this one, the dislike is there's still 1 who dislikes it. I don't know if that's the same person from 101, but otherwise things have sort of shifted down. There's only 2 who like it a lot. There are 3 who slightly like it. There's 2 who are neutral, and there are 2 more who slightly dislike it. So this one is overall less popular than 101, presumably by virtue of this change in the boundary between 2 and 4. So this suggests that people seem overall they like them both, but they like number 101 better than number 104. Let's go on then. I've got the 2 more maps here. These are both map 102. And they do, actually, Jackie, I'll just let you again, because I'm sure I'll say it incorrectly. Tell us again how both of these are distinguished from 101 and 104, and then what's unique about 102 version 2.
Okay, so again, these maps have no changes to District 6 and District 5. District 2 in map 102 goes into District 4 just slightly. So there's a slight change to District 4. And then there's a difference again between District 1 and District 3. They still follow the school district boundary lines with those 2 boxes, but in the top, very top, they do not have the little extra space that was part of District 2. So that just follows El Camino pretty closely.
All right. And then when we get to the final map, that same difference is the same on both of these.
Yes.
The line here, but the area over in this, the so-called boot, is a little bit different.
Right. So this enters District 4 in just a different way.
Yeah. All right. So do we have comments either about both of these together, comparing them, or anything particularly for or against the version 2 map on the left? Anyone would want to be recognized on that set of subjects?
Don't see any hands raised at this time.
Anybody want to raise a hand to speak? And I want to note it is 8 o'clock, and I know we said the meeting would end at 8. I think we're on schedule to end at 8:15 due to our late start. And again, I apologize about the technical glitch. We may even be done by about 8:10, but we are going to go over a little bit because of the technical issues at the beginning. Any comments, any hands raised? Otherwise, we'll put up the poll. I guess, Ricky, go ahead on map 102 version 2. So this
Okay.
is the map on the left. Same set of questions. You like it a
Hands
lot,
up.
slightly neutral, slightly dislike, or you dislike it a lot. And
We have
we
6
haven't
of
been
10.
okay. We haven't been repeating or emphasizing. All of these maps show the narrow notch up here, but I think you all recognize that that's a mix and match item that can be just straight along 101, or it can also be the sort of surgical notch. So you're not giving us your opinion about that up here right now. You're giving us your opinion on the changes in 1, 2, 3, and 4. How are we doing, Ricky?
7 of 10. It looks like 2 of our other participants dropped off.
Right.
So
And-
one more person, 9 of 10.
9 of 10. Oh, we're making headway. Great. Let's go ahead and close it
Okay.
and put those results up. So no one likes this one a lot, but also no one dislikes it a lot. This is more sort of centered around the middle of slightly and neutral. And I guess I would conclude from that that it doesn't have as it doesn't evoke opinions as strongly as 101 and 104 did. I'm sure there are people like Chalice could probably find a way to score this and tell us if that did 101/104 get a higher weighted score, or 102. I know 101 did better than 104, but I'm not sure how to interpret this, since 101 actually, I believe, had 5 people who liked it a lot and only 1 who liked it slightly. This one has 5 who like it slightly, but no one who dislikes it a lot. So it's harder to say. Probably this one is faring a little less well than 101, but I'm not 100% sure of that. So let's close that or move it off the screen, Ricky, and we'll go to our last map, which is map 102 version 3. And again, that's one that is the same as version 2 over here, does not have this little hook down here and in District 2 extending into 1, but it has a different boundary here between number 2 and 4, districts 2 and 4. Look, anybody want to raise a hand to speak to that set of changes?
No hands raised at this time, David.
No hands raised. It obviously is different. It takes in the residential neighborhood here into 2, but it doesn't include a little bit that's down here. I guess if there are no comments, we will put up that final poll.
Okay.
And see how people feel about that one.
We have 6 of 10. Two more participants to vote. Okay, and we stalled out again at 9 of 10, so I'm going to end it.
Okay.
Here are the results, David.
All right, and this one has clearly done worse than 102 version 2. No one even slightly likes it. This one, poor version 3. It's only neutral and disliking. It seems like this one's clearly less well-liked than 102 version 2. And I'm pretty sure that 102 version 2 is less well-liked than 101. So we're gonna put up a final poll to let you choose your favorite. But my sense is that 101 has done a little better than any of the others, definitely better than 104. 102 version 2 has definitely done better than 102 version 3. So let's close that poll. We are close to the end of the meeting. We're going to take any final comments here. We're going to put up our final poll question, and then I do want to wrap up just to remind you about next steps and additional ways to participate. Anybody want to make any final comments in favor or against any of the 4 maps before we put up the final poll question?
No hands at this time.
No hands at this time. So why don't we go ahead and put up that final poll? I know some of you, at least one of you said you don't really like any of these maps. You could still choose the one that you like best. And this one has a question 1 that's actually a mistake. You can ignore, just read the top question in bold, ignore question 1, and we just want you to choose the one you like best, even though the question refers specifically to map 101. I apologize for that typo, but the question is, what is your preferred map? Regardless of the notch solution, do you like best 101, 104, 102 version 2, or 102 version 3, or do you have no opinion among them? Valerie, we can promote you if you want to talk to us about this. You asked to repost the question, but if the question is still up. Valerie, do you want to speak, or I see you're in the chat? Valerie says she doesn't see the poll. Do others see it? Or Ricky, do you have any advice as to how Valerie can see the poll?
The poll is up. We have 7 of 9. It might be hiding behind another window of hers.
And can you tell us how to make it come back?
She said she clicked too fast. She might have exited out the poll.
I mean, as a guinea pig, I just made mine go away on purpose, and I too don't know how to make it come back. I don't know, Carrie, if you know.
The only way I could bring it back up is to relaunch it from the beginning.
Well, no, I don't think that's the question. I think the question, Ricky and others, is if I have inadvertently taken the poll off my screen, is there a way for me to?
Yeah, you can click on the poll icon at the bottom. It'll pop it back up.
So Valerie, did you hear that? Go to the bottom or top of your screen. You should have a black bar that says poll. In the black bar, you have an icon that says polls, and that will make the question come back for you. Valerie, you say you don't see the poll button. Do you have a black bar that says things like mute, stop video, chat? When you're chatting, I think you're using a chat icon on that black bar. So maybe it's not black. How do you chat to us? And just so the rest of you know, I'm conversing with Chalice. Valerie, I'm talking while she types. Valerie, wherever you see the thing that allows you to chat, you should see some other icons that say things like polls. Only 2 options, chat and lower hand. Interesting.
Yeah, David, I think the reason why Jackie might be able to see is because she's a panelist, and that's why she has the full menu bar. That way the attendees can't mess with any of the other controls. They only have the raise hand and chat features.
Well, so Valerie, I think we'll just, so you've put in the chat that you wanted to vote for 101. And it sounds like I think everyone else has been able to fill out the poll. So we'll just add one more person on 101 when we see those results, Valerie, so you know that, and so other knows that. And Steve gave other instructions. Valerie, did that allow you to get it? Click chat at the bottom, then a side panel pops out where you can see chat fields and enter a comment. Oh, well, so that's just to give a comment, but it doesn't allow the poll to come back up. So Valerie, we will note one more person for 101. So Ricky, otherwise you say we have 7 out of 9, is that right?
Correct.
And with Valerie, we have 8 out of 9. So let's go ahead and close it.
And here are the results.
So here are the results. So 101 got 5 out of 7, and with Valerie will be 6 out of 8. And then one person who likes version 2, I'm sorry, map 104, and one person who has no opinion. So as might have been expected by the way the rankings went, of each of them, most of you have said that you like 101 best. And of course, we only had 7 people here at the end. We started with about 15 participants, and we've had some drop off probably since we went past 8 o'clock. But at least those of you who are remaining got to give your opinions. And again, 6 out of 8 of you did like 101 best. 1 of you likes 104 best, and 1 of you has no opinion. So with that, I'm going to close that, and just I want to wrap up. And Jackie, I'll call on you also if there's anything to add. But before we call on Jackie, let me just remind you of our next steps. Current comment period is open till January 31st. Before that, in the next couple of days, we will get the demographic data out, so you'll have some days to look at that. And the 31st is a week from Monday. I apologize that it's as tight as it is, but it will allow you to give some feedback even then. On February 3rd, we will be opening up the first open town hall survey, and that will be on these draft maps. To participate, you will go to that website, sunnyvale.ca.gov. February 10th, the Redistricting Commission will meet and make a recommendation of up 3 to 5 of the maps, hopefully narrowing it a little more, but we've got 4 right now. They might all move forward. Between February 12th and 20th, we'll be holding 5 pop-ups around town and opening an additional open town hall survey to seek input on those preferred maps that come out of the Redistricting Commission meeting on February 10th. And then on February 22nd, the City Council will have a formal meeting to consider adoption or go back to the Redistricting Commission with what is really an absolute deadline for City Council by action by March 15th to get to the Registrar of Voters by March 31st. So there's the steps, a lot of additional opportunity for a lot of additional input. I do want to wrap up by allowing Jackie to close. And in the chat, Valerie has mentioned that she has one other question. Valerie, if you want to post that on the chat, we can see if Jackie can answer that through the closing comments. So I'll just turn it over to Jackie, and if your question pops up, we'll see if that can be answered as well.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody, for sticking it out. Again, apologies for the technical glitch, but I'm glad that those of you who are here were able to figure out how to join the meeting. This meeting is being recorded, and it will be posted for anybody who was not able to participate. They can view it later. And there will be, of course, another opportunity to express your opinion, and that is with the survey. So with the survey, we will be looking at the focus maps on Open Town Hall. This will be open to all residents in the city. Of course, with Open Town Hall, we encourage people to register so that we can make sure that those that do answer the poll are residents. And that's why we use Open Town Hall, and we will be reporting, in particular, giving emphasis to those that participate on the poll and are registered. We are going to be promoting that poll heavily on our social media and on Nextdoor through our neighborhood associations. And we want to make sure to get as many people, residents in the city as possible to participate. So we encourage you to share it widely with your networks. We will be including these 4 maps, but we may also, depending on how many other options we get, we may include the other options that are submitted before January 31st in that poll, but I can't make that promise. If we get flooded with new versions of these focus maps, it won't be possible to do that. But if we get a small number of revisions to the focus maps, we certainly will try. Let's see.
So Valerie's asked when the Open Town Hall will open, and that date is on the screen, yes. February 3rd for the first one. Yes. And Valerie, there will be a second round that begins on February 12th. And Jackie, the additional question there is, will there be an email go out, at least to all the participants from this meeting, to remind folks of the survey opening on February 3rd?
I encourage all of the participants here to sign up for our redistricting email list. I will try to get the emails. I believe we have them from Placeworks, and so I can send it out to all of you. as well. But I encourage you, if you want to stay informed about redistricting, to go to our website. It's up here, sunnyvale.ca.gov/redistricting, and you can sign up for our email list there.
And then and an email will go to everyone on the email list to tell them that the survey has opened on February 3rd. So as long as you get on that list, Valerie, you and all the other folks who are on that list will be getting a reminder on February 3rd. All right, and I believe that is the end of our meeting tonight. We do encourage you to spread the word to family and friends, to get them to participate in the surveys, to look at things through the 31st, and then to be a part of the open town hall starting February 3rd. You can also share more ideas through any of the tools online at sunnyvale.ca.gov redistricting. There is a redistricting tool there. There are paper maps to download. There's an Excel spreadsheet, and you can email Jackie, jguzman@sunnyvale.ca.gov.
I do want to clarify, we have not gotten those updated paper and Excel maps, but they will be coming hopefully tomorrow.
Okay, great. Yeah, because we're on this time crunch, and we only started this a few days ago after the redistricting commission met. And I think that's it. I want to just leave this slide up as we close the meeting so that people can note down both Jackie's email address as well as the website. And thank you very much for your